دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي.
بسم الله. Read the questions.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So the remaining questions from last week were, so the first one is, how was the Quran revealed from Allah to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Did Allah reveal the Quran as a book to Angel Jibreel?
We don't know the how in details, but it's I already stressed that the Quran is primarily a written book, and when the order came Iqra, the Prophet was shown a parchment or shown a sheet of clothing or whatever it is, and then Jibreel told him, read. Said, I'm not a reader, I can't read, I'm illiterate. So it is primarily written, and then reciting is secondary, although it's also recited, but it's reciting is secondary. We discussed that last time. Now how all these supernatural events are happening, is there something happening inside the brain, what's coming from outside? All of this is going into things which are really metaphysical and do not really bring us much more further. But we have a hadith in Bukhari about how the Prophet received revelation, and he described various types of revelation he received. So sometimes it comes to him like in a ringing of a bell, and then when it is over, then he understands what or memorizes what has been given to him. And sometimes the angel appears like a man in front of him and show him and speak to him in various forms. And the most difficult and harshest is that it comes like a bell, and he becomes very heavy, sweating, and so on. And we have also a narration that even the camel, when he was in the camel is goes down in its knees. So it is something very heavy, physically very heavy for the camel to carry. So it goes down, and we know a camel can carry up to a half ton or a ton. So it must be something heavier than that. So this is these things are related how it is coming. It shows the surrounding people that it's not from Muhammad's being, because whatever Muhammad's power may be, he cannot really, even if he squeezes the camel, he cannot force the camel to sit down this way. And also one time he received revelation, as Zayd ibn Thabit, his part of his leg was on Zayd ibn Thabit's leg, and Zayd ibn Thabit's leg became almost broke on the heavy weight of the leg of the Prophet. So it comes also physically heavy. But all these metaphysical or supernatural things we cannot discuss. But if the essential point is that it comes it's written. It's essentially in written form. So it's a written document in the first place. And that's what Quran says that in various places. It says Iqra, first revelation, and then when in Surah Al-Bayyinah, it says clearly في صحف مطهرة مرفوعة مكرمة, in sheets, written in sheets. فمن شاء ذكر في صحف مطهرة مرفوعة مكرمة. So في صحف مطهرة, these are purified sheets or purified scrolls. So it is primarily written. And that's the reason it's very important to check the writing which has been given by the Sahaba. Now someone say the Prophet was illiterate, how could he control? It's not necessary. Allah is controlling it by whatever mean he was, but there's considerable evidence that he became slightly literate in the sense that he can recognize the shapes of letters, say don't write this one, remove this letter, put this letter. In that sense, he became literate. But whatever technicality is that, what has been written by the Sahaba is clearly, we will come today also discuss few things of that, is clearly not the usual spelling which we have now, or not even the usual spelling they have at that time. So it is deliberate in some places. For example, let me give examples of these deliberate. I have a file here actually open. Not this one, this other one. Let's see which one it is. So I can mention some examples there. is that file? I have to have two files open. I think it's this one. But miraculous nature of the Quran, yeah, it must be this one, which shows that the writing is done deliberately this way. Not this one. What about رسم المصاحف? Yeah, I know it's in the desktop actually. I kept it in the desktop to be handy. It says الرسم is given, is revealed. The rasm is not according to the standard Arab roots. For example, one example is that Bismillah, the first word in the Quran, the first ayah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bism is written in the Fatiha, Ba, Sin, Mim, without the Alif. Normally, should you go there, it says Bi, Ism, and then, yes, the Alif is not, Alif al-Wasl is not pronounced, but it should be written Bism, Bi, Ba, Alif, Sin, and pronounced Bism. In the Basmala, it's written Bism, without Alif, but inside the Quran itself, for example, in the Surah Iqra, Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq, Bism there written with the Alif, in all Masahif, and in the original Masahif. So clearly this is deliberately made. For whatever reason, we have to find out and extract. Another example is, for example, when Allah talks about Nasha, we will, Nasha is written Noon, Sheen, Alif, Hamza, Nasha. In all the Quran, except in one place in Surah Hud, we have to figure out why it is this odd place, and it's written in an odd way. Noon, Sheen, Hamza on a waw, and Alif, Nashwa. If you pronounce it like that, it doesn't make any sense. Nashwa, obviously, it's not pronounced this way. It is Nasha. But why is it written this way? It cannot be, even if someone says a scribe error, it cannot be a scribe error. No idiot will make such an error like that. It's out of question. So it is deliberately written this way in Surah Hud. Why? We have to ascertain. That's part of the miraculous nature of the Quran, to ascertain these oddities. For example, Ra'a. So he saw in the past, Ra'a, in all the Quran except in two places, they're written not the usual writing of the usual spelling. It's written all the Quran with Ra, Hamza on the line, and Alif, Ra'a, which is not the standard. The standard is in only two places, which is written Ra, Alif with the Hamza on top of it, and the Ya, Alif Maqsura, Ra'a. So it seems to be, we can conclude, it cannot be. Some people say this is scribal variation, scribal error. It can't be like that. The scribes, whatever they have been, their level of scriptural capabilities, they could not be that stupid to make such evident mistakes. It must be deliberate for certain reasons, which we have to ascertain. Maybe it relates to the miraculous nature of the Quran. It may relate to the number of counts of number of letters, etc., which we'll discuss today a little bit more. Another example is al-layl. In the usual Arabic writing, it will be the Alif Lam, and Layl, Lam Ya Lam, Lam Ya Lam, Al Layl. So it will be two lams there visible for writing. Throughout all the Quran, Al Layl is written with only one lam. So the lam of Ta'rif or Al is gone, merged together in the lam of the. Obviously, in the Masahif, when they, the modern Masahif and later Masahif, when they do Tashkil, they write Alamat Shadda, which indicates as a double L there in the pronunciation. But if we remove all pronunciation or all tashkil, then it is written with lam la lam. All over, instead of the correct one, the normal standard correct one, al-layl with two lams, written with two lams, like it's written usually in everywhere in the literature and in every other documents. So what's the reason for that? Some people have argued for certain deep philosophical reasons and things like that, but it's clearly written like that, consistently in all the Quran. While the word an-nahar is written correctly, alif lam, nun ha, alif ra, as we write in usual. Another point of interest also, that ar-Rahman, the divine name in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ar-Rahman is never pronounced ar-Rahman, but it's written ar-Rahman. And that writing is all consistent in all the Quran, both in the Basmala, in the body of the Quran, and also it is so prevalent that it's even the normal writing, when people write their names and people write to each other, they write Ar-Rahman without the alif, which should be there according to the pronunciation. So that has been so consistent throughout the conscious of the people that even the normal writing is deviating from what the pronunciation should be, and writing Ar-Rahman without alif. Sometimes you find rarely in newspapers and so on with alif, but this is normally a deviation. Normally it's written even in newspapers, even in other books, Ar-Rahman without alif. It has become so. The Quran has overcome this point to the level that and someone could say that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the Basmala, the alif has been omitted and the alif ar-Rahman omitted to make the Basmala, the number of the letters of the Basmala, 19. When we discussed the letter 19 today. But so the essential point we should hold is that the Quran is essentially a written document. It is in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. إنه القرآن المجيد في لوح محفوظ, in a protected lawh, tablet or scroll or something, in a protected tablet. This could be metaphorical too for the divine knowledge, but independent of that, it is hinted as being a written document primarily. So the writing must be tawqifi. So all these issues about the writing, is it tawqif versus ijtihad of Sahaba, must be settled philosophically or metaphysically on this point. Now there will be a variation between the masahif, because the one who are writing the masahif are human beings. There will be some mistakes, maybe some errors, and so like that. We have to ascertain that by comparing the various masahif and going to certain principles, general principles of like, for example, we discussed that from the existing masahif in hand of the people for now over 1,000 of years in various areas of the Muslim world, we have it. Most of them are doing tashkil and doing script according to one of the three readings. The reading of Medina with 2 channels of readings, the Qalun, mostly in Libya and Chad, etc., and maybe part of Tunisia, and Warsh, that's in the far west, and the rest of Africa. These are the 2 channels of the Madani reading. Then we have, interestingly, Ad-Duri from Abi Amr. This is a Basri reading. Ad-Duri is one of the narrator, one of the channels of Abu Amr. That's the one, and the Mus'hafs are written according to that in Sudan, essentially, and maybe a little bit south of that, and some part in East Africa. And then we have most of the Muslim world, amazingly, the weaker reading of Hafs, which everyone knows, and the Mus'haf of the people that we like to talk about the Mus'haf as Hafs. Maybe this, and we argued that's maybe by divine design to obscure these issues until the time comes right to analyze it, and only way to analyze it really consistently and properly when the time of computers comes, because no way people can do that, counting the letters and so on in a proper way and comparing how many letters of certain type are there, unless we have a computerized power. So it was left for this time, and we argued last time that because the consistency in the Basmala for the reading of Medina and the reading of the Basri, Ad-Duri, and the consistency of the 2 Masahif and the consistency of the number of the ayah. And the most important point is that the Basmala is everywhere, including in Fatiha is the ayah number 0. It's not counted in the surah directly. It's like a separated ayah. While the Fatiha is still 7. Everyone counts the Fatiha is 7. That's because of that we regarded that this will be the measure, the standard one, and the Hafs reading should be like a contrasting, to see the contrast and see where errors may have memorizing error or scripture error has happened, and then we can find certain rules and so on out of this principle. In addition, other principles also, linguistic principles. So that's the Quran is the written document. It comes down written. That's what the metaphysical aspect or the supranational aspect of how the revelation happens, how it goes in the brain, which kind of brain waves. I don't think it's of any benefit for us at the moment. Okay, that's number one. But we'll continue some aspects of that today. Second question.
Okay. There's only 2 questions, and they're pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask them both. One is, why were all the revelations / scriptures revealed in Ramadan? And the second one is, why was Ramadan chosen as a month of revelation?
Who said the revelation are all of them in Ramadan? We have no evidence for that. Some people say that the Torah came in Ramadan. This is Ramadan. This is all. Something is narrated from Ibn Abbas. Maybe it's an ijtihad of Ibn Abbas, but we don't know. This is all. Nothing there is reliably and narrated in such a way that we can rely on it and hold it with iron fist. I think we should just forgo about these things. So many of these narrations are, like for example, there's a current scholar who studied how to give the Quranic characters, the letters of the alphabet of the Quran, a certain order based on, he made the assumption about this, the language of Adam, etc. But actually the order he achieved is based on internal consistency of the Quran. And that's what counts. That's the language of Adam and so on. This is all going into metaphysical history, which you cannot ascertain and does not take us forward. But the order he achieved has a very significant, interesting aspects. Maybe one day we'll come to that, but this will go more into the details of the numeric aspects of the Quran, which we will not do except maybe today and maybe next time. We have just touched upon few things of that to show that there's a internal consistent miracles of numerics in the Quran, which proves its divine origin. That's only, we'll do only a bit of that, and there's still plenty of research to be done there. So that's it. So who said the revelation of Quran? And then in Anzalna fi Laylatul Qadr, that's meaning the first revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, was in Ramadan. That's it. The other revelation come as needed, as occasion arises. And some people speculated on, including I think there's a narration from Abbas, that the whole Quran has come down, what they call Bayt al-Izzah, and then has been then sent bit by bit and so on. I think this is all, we can't rely on this narration. We can't rely that's really from Ibn Abbas, and we cannot rely on Ibn Abbas ijtihad in this matter. This is nothing marfu from Prophet. It seems to be contradicting the Quran, because the Quran says whatever they bring to you as an argument will get you a counter argument and even better one. So it comes as needed and as demands come and as occasion happens. It has come mufarraq, distributed over the 23 years. Because the Mushrikeen said the previous books have come in one block to the prophets. Why this is not coming in a block? And the Quran answered that that's because there will be interaction. People will come with arguments. We'll bring a counter arguments. Events will happen. We'll comment on events as they come along. And also it's a part of the miracle of the Quran, because if it had been come in one block, someone could say, oh, well, someone sat there and fixed it nicely and made these numerical instances. But these numerical issues cannot be fixed by something which has been written, even if we assume it's written by Muhammad, which ending an impossibility of someone keeping track of all these things over 23 years. Just rationally impossible to keep track of these numerical coincidences, which we'll discuss some of them today. So I think all of this is many of the things rely on narrations which are just not reliable, or on some ijtihad of Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas is a great scholar of the Quran, and great scholars have sometimes they imagine things and they speculate about things in their mind, but he never said that he got that from the Prophet or it is marfu'. It's maybe a ijtihad of him. He thought it came in one piece and then near heaven and then was distributed. But I doubt even that these narrations are reliable. Even I doubt that Ibn Abbas, this narration goes to Ibn Abbas, that we can rely on that it's Ibn Abbas narration. Is really doubtful. Okay, so that's the right answer. Not these imaginary stories about the Quran being revealed in one block or the whole Bayt al-Izzah and came bit by bit and so on. And this also relates to deep issues about qadar and divine pre-knowledge and all of these things. It's best not to avoid that, and it will. As I said, I doubt strongly that it is coming really from Ibn Abbas. I think it's Ibn Abbas has become like the nail of Juha. Everyone hangs things on Ibn Abbas. Which anyone who wants to invent anything about Qira'at or about Quran and so on, he attributes to Ibn Abbas. Quite little of what's attributed to Ibn Abbas is narrated really with an isnad and through trustworthy standards you can rely upon. Plenty of it is just nonsense. And it's just imagination of some people, and they imagine something or invent something, and they want to give it an authority, and they invent an isnad to Ibn Abbas. And most likely, most of these have been caught by the scholars of hadith as being not reliable and fabricated. So the best is just to see what the Quran says about itself. It came in bits and pieces to respond to questions and to events as they develop. And that's what the Quran clearly says. So internal evidence, external evidence is that it's like that. But in Nazanafi al-Qadr, meaning we started this revelation there. That's we revealed it in Laylatul Qadr. With Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, that's most likely what this ayah referred to, because if you look at it in the order of the Mus'haf, Surah Al-Nazl al-Qadr is after Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So as it referred, that what we said earlier, Iqra bismi rabbika, that has happened in Laylatul Qadr in Ramadan. What's the hikmah? We don't know. Maybe that's what made Ramadan and that important month. That revelation happened in a month called Ramadan, and because of the revelation happening in Ramadan, after that Ramadan gained a special status, become like an anniversary. So become an important month because the revelation happened, not because Ramadan has any characteristic. It's a month like any other month. It's in the lunar and the solar movement. There's nothing distinct any time between any time and the other. But because the first revelation came to the Prophet in Ramadan, Ramadan became the significant month, not the opposite. Also, the ayah says, "Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran," meaning this is the month we chose that month because the first revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, came in Ramadan. So we celebrate that month as a distinctive month, the month in which the revelation began. So we choose that month to be the month of fasting. So it's the opposite. It's the revelation of the Quran which makes Ramadan distinct. Not Ramadan is having anything characteristic with it. There's nothing characteristic between January or March or nothing. Even you could say January and March, there's some characteristic because these are solar months, and January is in the winter and July is in the summer, maybe. But in the case of the pure lunar months of the Arabic Islamic calendar, they go through in a cycle of 23, 33 years between all seasons even. Nothing distinct anyone from the other at all. Good? So there's plenty of myths around that. Just discount them. Just don't bother. And you find that especially in now I know our Pakistani brothers will be upset in India and Pakistan. They love these funny stories. Books are full of stories which is unbelievable. Just forget about them. Gloss over them.
If you want to start with the session.
Okay, so we have this. If it is really a written revelation, then there may be in, but also the order of the surahs. Let's get the orders of the surah in the Mus'haf are actually also tawqifi. There was a discussion about is it ijtihad or not, and so on. And there were stories that Ali ibn Abi Talib collected the Quran in the order of revelation, etc. But that has even refuted through history. For example, Ibn Nadim, who is him a Shi'i, he's from Shia, he said, our people, al-Khassa, he called the Shia Khassa, the elite. For him, the Shia are the elite, and al-Amma, the common Muslims. Okay, no problem, good. Amma. See, al-Khassa used always to say that Ali ibn Abi Talib has a Mus'haf, which he wrote by himself in the order of revelation. So, and Nadim in his Fahrist, in his index, I mean, he tried to index the most important works and books of the Islamic world at his time. I don't remember exactly which time he died, but I think 400 something. So in the 5th century or 300, I think it's 400 something. Nadim, they say, I came to know, and he traveled all over the Muslim world checking Masahif and so on. All of them have this order we have today. There's no Mus'haf in the world at that time or before that which doesn't have that order. Even the one in Tashkent, which we have copy of it, even there, some of them are electronic and they copy it, and they can even send it by email so that you can enjoy it if you want, etc. But I hear that some people have the Mus'haf of Ali ibn Abi Talib in Kufa. So I traveled there. So I traveled to Kufa to see this Mus'haf. And these people were very stingy with the Mus'haf. They have it in a box and so on. Like any important artifacts, you persuade them to bring the Mus'haf out. They brought the Mus'haf to him. So I look at the Mus'haf first on the parchment and so on. It was very old parchment, clearly reasonably to be assumed. At the time, they didn't have carbon dating, poor guy, so he could not, but he relied on his eyesight, and it's definitely very old, and because of, although the people try not to touch it and keep it like an holy artifact closed away in a box, but still there will be some touching, sometimes shaking. It is definitely an old parchment. It looks like from that time, and the type of the parchment, its thickness. This man is the scholar of like a publication specialist in his fairest, so he knows which type of parchment were available at which time. So it looks like from time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then so I was interested to see if it's really, if these people are telling the truth, I would say, see if it is. And they assured him because of their family tradition and genealogy that they definitely have that from the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Say if it's Ali ibn Abi Talib, so let's see what it said. Let's assume it's Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he checked it. Say, I was surprised. It has the same order what we have all the Masahif in our hands now. It is the same order. It is not in the order they usually, our Khassa claim that Ali ibn Abi Talib's Mus'haf was written in the order of revelation. It's just a myth perpetuated by some Shia. That's not true. That's not true. It's written in that order. So that order seems to be also tawqifi. And it's also strengthened by the fact that the Sahaba were dividing Mus'haf into called. You find that in especially Musahif printed in Pakistan and India, they have the called, beside the division in Juz and quarter, etc., they have this called Manzila. You find in the side, Manzila Ula, Manzila Tariya. These Manzila, they are regarded as the called the partition of the Sahaba. They divide the Quran in 7 partitions, so they can read it in a week. Manazil, 7 Manzila. And the system of division is the following: except the Fatiha, obviously, nobody counts the Fatiha. The first 3 surahs, that's the first manzila. Then 3, and then 5, then 7, then 9, then 11, then 13. So it's going odd. That's 6, and then the surah al-Mufassal from Qaf downwards. So that is a conveniently for 7 days. You can read it in 7 days. This is the division of the Sahaba. They didn't have these Juz and so on. This Juz and so on is to make things convenient for the later generation. But that was the division of Sahaba. It respects the limit of the surah, and it goes by this order. So the 3 first is the manzila number 1. 5, manzila number 2. The 5 after that. 7 after that is manzila number 3. 9, 11, 13, and then al-Mufassal. That's from Qaf downwards to the end, Qaf al-Quran Majid until the end. So that show you that this order is, and the order of the surah and their size fits nicely. The manazil are not exactly the same length, but roughly the same length. Roughly the same length. Amazingly, these manazil have, in the usual, I would have preferred that the later division would have been manazil, a manzil divided maybe in 4 parts. So if someone wants to read the Quran in 7 days is too much, read it maybe in almost a month, 28 days, like divided in quarters. So it goes in a weekly cycle. It's better than going in a 30-day cycle, which is not very sensible, by the way. But that's what the scholars later decided. It's more convenient for people for reading and so on. But these all divisions are artificial. Even the division of the Sahaba, but the division of the Sahaba hints clearly that the order of the surah in the Mus'haf are really tawqif as such. And we have also established in counter argument against the prevalent point of view that there were no Musahif at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That's not true. We have established there were Musahif. There was even a Mus'haf for himself who he gave to Uthman ibn al-As al-Thaqafi. And all these Musahif must have been the same order, without any doubt. So that's an important aspect. So all of this tawqifi. Assuming the Quran is from Allah, we have to test this hypothesis. Say this scientific way of going outside and make this hypothesis and check it if it is consistent, and make the counter hypothesis and show that it leads to inconsistency. And for example, the counter hypothesis is from Muhammad. Then explain how come these numerical coincidences, all of them are happening. For example, just on the elementary level. But before that, you do that, you have to ascertain what is the script of the Mus'haf. In counting of ayahs and surah, we have to ascertain what is the correct count, which count is the correct, and we argued that the correct count cannot be the Kufi count because it's inconsistent containing the huruf muqatta'a, alif lam mim, ra, alif lam mim sad, etc. The ones who are consistent regarding them, all of them are not separate ayah. is the Madani and the Basri and maybe others. So the Madani and Basri. And then the fact that these Madani and the Basri through Duri, Amr, and the Madani through the two channels are protected and preserved since hundreds of years before the time of computer, before we are even existed and we're discussing this issue, shows if it's from Allah, there's a divine hand behind that, which showing us that this is the one we should follow in matter of both writing and in matter of count. And indeed, that's if you look at the count of the let's call it the interesting is all of them African, the African Masahif, the Sudanese, the Qalun in Libya, and in all North Africa, Warsh, all of them are following the one count which produces that the Quran, the number of the ayahs of the surahs totally is 6,214. Add to that 113 basmala, because Surah At-Tawbah does not have a basmala as the beginning as ayah number 0. If you add that together, you will end with 6,327 ayah of the Quran, including the basmalas. And this is interestingly, it is equal 19 times 333. And this is 19 times 3 times 11, 111, or written correctly in basic writing with prime numbers, 19 times 3 times 3 times 37. The number 19 is significant. Why it is significant? Let me just go to a little bit on the number 19. And there was an issue about Rashad Khalifa in America, and he has went into off tangent claim to be prophets and all these things. But independent of that, his initial work was good, hinted in that right direction. But his problem is that he did not find the correct count of the Quran, because he relied on like most people will rely on the Kufi counting and the reading of Hafs from Asim, which is the most common in the eastern of the Muslim world, including even Egypt, partly in Egypt, but all the eastern of the Muslim world. That is the one which is normally printed from Egypt eastwards, which is a pity, because this is the weaker one. Why the number 19? Why he came to the number 19? What attracted his attention are following things, is that in the Quran says clearly about عليها 19 وجهنم ما جعلنا. Then the Quran answer وما جعلنا. Then the mushrikeen mocked the Quran, say if it's only 19 guardians of the hellfire. One of the mushrikeen, who was like the best wrestler in Arabia, said no problem, I'll take care of 10. Wrestle them down, and you take care of the 9, and then we'll be able to get out of the hellfire of Muhammad. The Quran answered, they said, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا عِدَّتَهُمْ إِلَّا فِتْنَةً الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِيَسْتَيْقِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ. How the people of Kitab will react the number 9, I have no idea, but we have to search that point. But this is secondary. وَيَزْدَادَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِيمَانًا وَلَا يَرْتَابَ الَّذِينَ آمَنوا وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ ولا يرتاب الذين أوتوا الكتاب والمؤمنون وليقول الذين كفروا ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثير ويهدي كثيرا وما جعلناها إلا فتنة للبشر. So the number 19 is explicitly mentioned in the Quran as having a certain significance. It's mentioned as the number of the guardians of the hellfire. وما جعلنا أصحاب النار إلا ملائكة. What are malaika? We don't know even what the nature of the malaika. People imagine malaika like beings with wings and so on. Okay, no problem. But maybe they are fields. We don't know. But they are 19. So 19 seems to be a significant number. Now, if we check al-basmala with this odd writing, it is 19 letters. We check the number of basmalat in Quran. There's 113 ahead of in surah, but there's another Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the full sentence, but not a separate ayah. It's in Surah An-Naml. This is the chapter of the ant. So if you add this one as a basmala, not as a, you find the basmalat of the Quran is 114. The number of surah of the Quran is 114. 114 is again a multiple of 19. It's 19 times 3 times 2. So again, 19 appears there. That's very interesting. It's becoming more and more. The plot thickens, becomes interesting. So the basmalat, we have 113 ayah, standalone ayah number 0 and 113 surah, and the basmala of Tawbah, which has been, it's not there, is replaced by a part of the ayah in Surah An-Naml, and that's the reason that there's like a riddle for kids. It's common in Middle Arabia, in Najd. They ask a child, "Do you know what happened to the basmala of Surah Tawbah? Where it is gone?" I say the child say, "I don't know where it is gone." Say, the ant went at night and ate it away. So it's in the belly of the ant. It's inside the ant. It's obviously like a nice riddle for kids, just to play with kids. But this basmala is only a part of the surah, and it is inside Surah An-Naml. So the Bismillah, the phrase Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, exactly like that, with this writing, is 114 times in the Quran. 113 separate ayahs in the beginning of the whole surah, and one phrase, part of the ayah, when the queen of Saba says, إنه من عند سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن, إنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So that's the 114th. So this is very interesting. This becomes almost impossible to deny of importance when we check in Surah Qaf. Why Surah Qaf specifically? The people of Lot, you know Lot, the Prophet Lot, who was sent to Sodom and Gomorrah. The Quran doesn't mention their biblical name, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Qawm Lot, the people of Lot. All over the Quran, the story of Lot is mentioned in many places in the Quran. It is mentioned Qawm Lot, the people of Lot, except in Surah Qaf. In Surah Qaf, the word Qawm Lot is replaced by Ikhwan Lot, the brothers of Lot. The Arabs, they say sometimes about your own people, sometimes your brothers. And they address you, for example, if you are from a tribe, the brother of Tamim, or myself, brother of Dawasir, Ya Akh Dawasir, brother of Dawasir, because they're your own people. You could, in the same philosophy, you could address someone who's English, for the brother of the Anglia, of the English, meaning you belong to these people, you are their brother in that sense. So the word Ikhwan, he does not mean any type of brotherhood, means the belonging to a tribe or the people. Does not mean brotherhood in a belief or in an ideology or anything like that. So why Qawm Lut has been here in Surah Qaf, Ikhwan Lut instead of Qawm Lut? It could have fit, Qawm Lut could fit there nicely. Exactly, instead of Ikhwan Lut, Qawm Lut. So why the Quran avoided the Qawm Lut? Clearly because Qawm Lut contain a Qaf, the letter Qaf. Ikhwan does not contain. So it may be related to the number of the qafs in the surah. And sure enough, if you count the qafs in the surah, the correct counting. Now we come to the issue of counting letters. There are some issues of counting letters as written in the Masahif Uthmaniyya, not as the spelling, as a pronunciation. It is indeed a multiple of 19. I will check it for you maybe next time if you wish. I can't go and check it myself. But we have that bring one issue there. The issue is there, if we count, if the Quran is a revelation by writing, and the writing of the Uthmani writing is tawqifi, then we have to count the letter as they are written. Nevertheless, there is an exception there which has to be made to make the count in Qaf correctly. You could say this is fixing things, playing with things, but this is not correct, because this will be a system which should be applied all over the Quran and bring other evidences by itself. So it has to be consistent, done consistently. Is that wherever we have a letter which is originating from a triplet or root, like for example, barara, ba-ra-ra, or haqqa, it's actually two qafs. Wherever we have a word which is written one qaf, like al-haqq, is written with one qaf and with shadda on top of it in Arabic writing, to indicate this is actually two qafs merged together, compacted together. This should be counted as two letters. And this apply, for example, the word hatta, because hatta is originally hatata, tuta. It's applied to inna, the article of affirmation, inna, which comes to in the nominal sentence, because Arabic has also nominal sentence. Not only the Arabic sentence does not need to be having a verb; it can be without verb, which is essentially the verb be, but it's hidden. Inna Muhammadan mujtahidun. It comes to and make a mubtada maftuh and the khabar marfu'. Muhammadun mujtahidun. Inna Muhammadan mujtahidun. Inna للتأكيد. I affirm that Muhammad is mujtahid. Inna wa anna, depending upon the position in the sentence, inna or anna. That's the origin of that is anana. Then we have also articles that letter the word thumma. Then after that following thumma, but of the same category. After that following. ثم للسؤال يعني you will be asked after that يوم القيامة عن النعيم about the nice life you had and did you do your duty in that nice life. ثم ثمما is origin ثمما. So these have to be ثم, or there's written that's th and meme, but the meme had to be counted twice. So this is, if we establish this rule, it will be consistently to be applied all over the Quran. In Surah Qaf, establishing that, because the word haq is there and similar, it is, but only those who have coming from a triplet origin, which is have double letter, حقق, برر, etc. حبب, حب, the ba in حب, love, must be counted too, because it's originally from two ba's, حبب. This, if you do that consistently, that will be the correct, most likely. I did not finish the research, and I think some people did not pursue the research in that direction enough and consistently yet. That will be the correct to be applied all over the Quran consistently. Otherwise, you are playing game. You are fixing here and changing here. That doesn't work. That will be a sign of fixing things to appear the way you like. Like the so-called Bible code. The Bible code is done this way: a lot of fixing and playing games. That's not the correct way of things, and that's indicate that you are not referring to a revelation. So that's the number 19 of significance. There are other numbers of significance, but I'm not going to discuss them today. Leave them for really maybe a separate issue of the miracle nature of the Quran. But there are other numerical coincidences in the Quran which proves that the Quran is definitely a revelation. But let's stress that the rasm, the writing of the Quran, and even the orders of the surahs is tawqifi, is as given by the Prophet ﷺ, or if you wish, dictated by Allah through metaphysical channels which you don't know. Let's just say, made the Sahaba agree on that. By divine influence in their psyche in the time of the revelation. Whatever it is, the mechanism doesn't bother us. It is definitely, it could not have been that all the Musahif have this order, all of them without exception, unless it is by tawqif. It can't be by, and we know that the Prophet had his own Mus'haf and gave it to Uthman ibn Abi al-As. We can assume safely it will have the same order. Although we don't have that Mus'haf in our hand, unfortunately. But if there had been any other order, some people copying from him would have a different order. But it's all over the Muslim world, it's the same order. There is no doubt about that this order. So this is tawqif. And they said again, remind yourself that the rasm is tawqifi, that there is oddities which are evidently deliberate, like basmala, bism is written without the alif. It should be written with the alif because it is ism, bism, or even if it's pronounced bism, but it's written according to pronunciation deliberately. The same with Rahman, written against the pronunciation without alif, and that makes al-basmala 19 letters. And this consistently everywhere in the Quran like that. So the other, like for example, nasha wa nasha, etc., that has to be studied more details. There is an ocean of information and things to be studied, and most likely you will need really a computerized system. But for that, you have to give the raw material in a consistent and proper way, and give the system in a consistent and proper way. Let me mention some issues of the miraculous incidences in the Quran about numbers, which are not necessarily depending upon the count of letters and count of words in that sense, but it shows it can't be possibly from Muhammad, because this is, I said, it's taken from a book which is written and revealed over, or allegedly revealed. Let's say allegedly. We should be neutral in this point. Allegedly by Muhammad, revealed over 23 years, and we know by historic necessity that's the case, how it has happened. It can't be possibly that it has been fixed this way. Let me give examples for that. For this. This is not all that's there. There are plenty other things, but I shows just a subset, which is I think cannot be. If one is a coincidence, then the others cannot be coincidence, and that's impossible to regard it. So then we can conclude that this what we have in hand is definitely a divine revelation. Let's take, for example, one example, the word shuhur, months, in plural. Shuhur came with alif lam, ash-shuhur, the months, came in Quran in one place. In the ayah, إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. Allah says here, the Quran says, let's be neutral, still, the counts of months in the sight of Allah or in the system of Allah or by definition divine by Allah, 12 months. In the book of Allah, when He created heaven and earth, meaning as decided by the creation. It does not mean that it was 12 months at the time of creation. There were no day and night. There was nothing. It was Big Bang. But at that time, it was decided to be at the time when Muhammad is sent or when the humanity will be on earth. It will be, and 4 of them are Hurum. That's in the religion of Ibrahim and Ismail. 4 are prohibited months. Fighting should be abolished in that. It's a time of feast, these 4 months, to protect the Hajj time, because the Hurum, the protected month were the month of Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram. Dhul Hijjah is the time of Hajj. So there's 1 month ahead of it to allow the people to travel peacefully for Hajj. The month of Hajj itself, and the month after that to allow the people to finish their trades and their businesses and so on and go back home peacefully without fearing war. And there's another one in mid-year. That's Rajab, between Sha'ban and Ramadan. That Rajab is allow the people mid-year at least a break time in which they can do Umrah and can travel peacefully. So time of hostility is limited so that hostility will be limited. That's in the old Sharia of Ismail, apparently, which the Arab inherited, or it is an agreement by the Arab which became like an international binding agreement which the Quran sanctioned. Many people discuss now Ashur al-Hurum. Actually, they are abolished because between Muslims there should be no fight, neither Hurum or no Ashur al-Hurum. And the non-Muslims do not recognize Ashur al-Hurum, so they're not an international part of an international system. So that's all gone. And by the way, Ramadan is not from the Ashur al-Hurum, as many people think it's for Ashur al-Hurum. It's not. So don't do injustice to yourself in them and fight the mushrikeen, all of them, as they fight you, all of them, etc. So if we go for the word shahr, الشهر مفرد single, because shuhur is plural, shahr mufrad, and also without without the, just month, in various positions of grammar, we found it coming in the Quran 12 times exactly, like the number of shuhur in the year. That's really a thick confess. That will be quite extreme to claim that is a coincidence, just arbitrary like that. So the word shahr, month, with al, the month, ash-shahr, and shahr, and shahran, maf'ulun bihi, it came in the Quran 12 times. The other roots related to that, like shahrain, came twice, 2 months in the dual, because Arabic has also, besides having singular, we have dual and plural. So shahrain came twice, and while the word ashhur, both came, al-ashhur and ashhur came 6 times. That may have some certain internal implications, but not going to that. Another interesting synchronization, which is worth taking a look to it, is, for example, that Isa ibn Maryam salawatullah alayhi and his mother is mentioned 25 times in the Quran. In one ayah, he is compared to Adam. إن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. Adam came mentioned in the Quran exactly 25 times, exactly like Isa. This again, claiming that this is just arbitrary and coincidental is really defies belief. This is almost impossible, specifically because the word Masih, Messiah, is not used for Quran for anybody else except Muhammad, except Isa alayhi salam. Yeah, and it's used in several places in the Quran, in 11 places actually. Al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam, that's 3 times. Al-Masih ibn Maryam without the word Isa, son of Maryam, 5 times. And Al-Masih alone 3 times. And the sentences like Al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam, Al-Masih the Messiah Isa ibn Maryam, or Messiah son of Maryam could have been interchanged between themselves, because if you say Al-Messiah Isa ibn Maryam, Al-Messiah the son of Maryam, you could interchange them. It doesn't change in the context. It's the same person, the same description. But why in some places Isa is mentioned, in some places say Al-Messiah the son of Maryam without Isa? So that the number of the Isa, word, the word Isa is correctly 25, because, as I said, they could be interchanged with the same meaning. But that fixing, that Al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam is mentioned in that composition 3 times, while Masih ibn Maryam without the word Isa 5 times. If it would have been slightly different, the numbers would not have been fit together. So it's impossible that Isa is mentioned 25 times and Adam is mentioned 25 times, and one ayah is comparing both of them, that they have no father, no father in that sense. Would have been violated. So this is a very interesting one. This could not be except done deliberately, and it cannot be done over all the Quran over 23 years of revelation unless by supernatural power. It cannot be done by any human writer. It can be done this way. And to add to the miraculous nature is that even the final version of the Quran, the final book, which was Uthman ibn Abi al-As al-Thaqafi, which was not even the final, because he took it before the ayah Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum came down. Most likely the Prophet sent to him, say, put it in that place, and he put it, was not even the hand of Muhammad, so he cannot even fix it. That was then written from the documentation in time of Abu Bakr. So this adds even to the miraculous nature of the Quran. So that's assuming that this is just accidental defies real belief. If you add that to the one of the shuhur, of the months, it becomes even more difficult to assume that this is not really with the supernatural power behind that. Let's go to another one example of these numerical coincidences, which is relatively insensitive to the details of the writing and the details of the wording and the counting of letters. One example is the word rajul, man, or rajulan, مفعول به in a conjugated, declined probably, is mentioned in the Quran 24 times. And the word imra'ah, woman, or imra'atak, imra'atu, imra'ati, and all variations, said imra'ah, imra'ati, is mentioned also 24 times. And this is also impossible to be accidental, because in certain places it could be substituted by wife. And it's happened really in the Quran. For example, in the story of Zakaria, he is complaining to Allah that his imra'atu, my imra'ati, my wife, imra'ati, my woman, is barren, and I have nobody will take over the position of a chief priest in the temple, and I'm afraid the people who are unworthy will take over. So Allah responded to him and gave him the good news that he will get Yahya. And the Quran says, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ, responded to him, accepted his prayer. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ يَحْيَى, gave him Yahya, and we reformed or corrected his wife, most likely made her not barren. That's information in that which is meant here. Some people say, what's meaning? أَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ, made his wife. But they say, it doesn't say أَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ إِمْرَأَتَهُ, although Zakaria himself is talking about his imra'ati, says زَوْجَهُ, his wife, his spouse. If it left the word wife and was spouse. If it used imra'atu here, the numbers would have been not correct. The 24 equal 24. So while in all this application of Zakaria 3 times he talks about imra'ati, the Quran responds to him and says zawjahu, his spouse. Does not use the word imra'atu. Otherwise the count would have been violated. It could have been, because imra' is also wife. That's one of the usage different. The usage of the Quran of the word imra'ah. Not only for just a woman, but also a wife. Let me just stop this call. So that's one. I think that's also very strong evidence that this cannot be deliberate. It's out of question. That's deliberate. Let's get another one, which is also cannot be delivered, has also certain interesting aspects. The word يوم, day, either معرف اليوم or نكرة يوم, the day or day, أو يوما مفعول به والتنوين, came in the Quran 364 times. Now, why 360? You could say the number of the days or years, but actually, let's think a little bit about that more accurately. Day and night is not a lunar concept, is a solar concept. Day and night are dictated by the movement of the sun. The year is also a solar concept. Now, the year doesn't have an exact number of days. It's, as we know, 365.24 fraction, etc. So we don't have a full exact number of days. So we could expect, for example, the number to come, like many people, I think, miscounted and say it's 365. It's not true, it's 364. I counted myself once more, 364. Why they show you 364? Some people count 360, the nominal numbers. I will come to the 360 again. 364. Why 364? 364 is actually what you could call is a hint that the best count of days in the year is actually 364, which is take care of the fact that this number is also a multiple of 7. It is actually 52 weeks, and that's what used, for example, in taxation years, and in many payment systems. Many payment systems go weekly, bi-weekly, fortnightly, etc. And you know, the ones who know accounting between you know how to calculate, for example, the rental based on bi-weekly, and that's by assuming that the year is 364 days. And then you can, by making a division, you can calculate what will be the proper rent for a month then, because a month is not a multiple of weeks, a straight multiple of weeks, so you have to correct the fraction. And the way it is chosen, the year is assumed to be 364, and then you recalculate what will be the monthly rental, or if a monthly rental is given, for example, you're applying for a benefit, and then the benefit agency or the council usually pay bi-weekly or weekly, or bi-weekly usually. Then they have to calculate what will be the bi-weekly allocation, and then they calculate by making the quotient and calculate according to the year 364 weeks. So they can calculate then what will be the weekly rate, the appropriate weekly rate for that monthly rent. Because many contracts are monthly, not bi-weekly or weekly. So that's the hint that 364 is the best approximation for the number of days in the year, which take consideration of the number of weeks and takes care of. But anyway, it is close enough. Now, concerning the years, just a side note. There's a nominal year, which is the year which was established by the Pharaoh and the Eli Babylonian. That's 360 days. Obviously, there's the missing days there. So the Egyptian, they have the 360 days, and they have 12 months, each one is 30. That's an attempt to mix two systems, because actually the month is a lunar system, is a lunar concept. It's not a solar concept. The solar movement is nothing which indicates what the month is. It's the moon which indicates what the month is. So making the year 12 months each 30, and then adding 5 days to it to correct that. And the several days, they have certain names, I don't remember them. And the Babylonian have several system before they went later to a lunar solar system later on, which the Jews are using, with which the calculation of Easter and so on is made. That's the reason Easter is moving. It moves a little bit back and forth because it's trying to fix the lunar months, and interestingly, to fix the lunar month so that you have lunar months, but you have the lunar months coming roughly in the same season, which the Jews need because their taxation system and their charity system is based on that. which seems to be dictated by the Old Testament, that seems to be the system, is you have to do every few years adding a leap month. So they have years of 12 months, lunar months, and years of 13 in a certain sequence, and the sequence and the system is 19 years. Again, the number 19 comes here. That's an interesting point. Maybe that's related to why this number 19 has been mentioned. So, but this is another. So in that case, the year will be again will be and the months will be differently. But in the usual prophecies of the prophets, usually a year and a month is used as 30, and the year is 360. So when you work with the prophets, especially of the Daniel prophets, you have to work with this so-called prophetic year, which is 360 days, and you have to calculate the days for certain prophecies are exact up to the day. If you calculate with days, 360, not with 364, not with 365, not with the lunar month, which is 354, 55, and there's a fraction also again. So I would say this is that we got 364 is also an amazing, very amazing and attract attention. Let me just mention some other which is related to some kind of synchronization of the meaning. Which is also again cannot be purely coincidental in a book which is written allegedly by Muhammad or dictated by Muhammad over 23 years. Although these are not in this level of exactness, but they are in level of certain meaning. For example, the word zakah in the Quran comes 32 times, while the word barakat and barakah comes 32 times. So zakah is related to barakah, and we know zakah is it bestows barakah on your wealth. If you don't bring the zakah, then the barakah of your wealth will be gone. So it's related to barakah in the sense. Then we have, for example, the word sabr, patience, endurance, comes in the Quran 114 times. Again, 114, that's 6 times 19. But in the same time, the same number comes the word shiddah, toughness, usr, shiddah, and it's the derivative of it. So it's also 114. So it's related. Sabr, endurance, and patience makes good sense if it is paired in some sense with shiddah, with toughness, with hardship. We have, for example, interesting that the word nutfa, that's the semen drop from which humans are created, or actually after the fertilization, that's called nutfa, is mentioned 12 times in the Quran. And the word teen, that's the origin of the life, which is the nutfa of life as a whole, is the teen, the human being, is also 12 times the same number. An interesting one, which is synchronization in the meaning, is al-albab, plural of lub, is having the same number in the Quran 16 times, like al-afida, fu'ad, 2 different words. Al-albab, al-fu'ad is the famous, is actually the heart, the physical heart, and obviously where the heart is used also in the metaphorical sense, meaning understanding and perception and comprehension. But lub means the internal, the core, the internal core. That's used also in the meaning of internal, ulil albab, those who have mind, of internal capacity of comprehension and understanding, of the same number. Interesting, another one is that the malaika. The Quran is 88 times with exactly the same number like shayateen, like the devils, satans. So we have as many malaika as satans. Seems indicating some kind of synchronization or balance in the universe. Another interesting one is that dunya, this world, is mentioned in the Quran 115 times. The same number is mentioned in al-akhirah, dunya and akhirah. No, so I say this is not very exciting because dunya and akhirah usually mentioned together, but it's not true. Not all of them mentioned together in the same ayah or the same context. Sometimes only dunya with no mention of akhirah. Sometimes akhirah alone with no mention of dunya. And in many places they are together. Still the number is the same. An interesting one is, for example, al-dallun, dal, the misguided ones. Al-dallun is 70 times in the Quran, The same number like Mauta, the dead one. So the Dallun, the misguided one, as dead, essentially, hinting that the dead, really, the real death is being misguided, not a physical death. But this is a hint again, one of these. One of the very interesting ones, very exciting ones I find is really one of the most persuading, the word aql, and the derivative yaqilun, ala taqilun, yaqilun, aql, etc. Reason, rationalization, meaning connecting things really. Aql, aqala, binding things in the mind, aql, which has become the standard word for the rational capacity of human beings. That's the word used by philosophers and mutakallimin. They did not. That's the word which has become then the prevalent one. And it's plenty in the Quran. Yaqilun, in the form of verb, came 49 times, 7 times 7. It's maybe significant. I'd say there's many things need to be studied here there. And amazingly, the same number 7 times 7 is the word nur, light. So there's some kind of internal or metaphysical or spiritual connection between rationalization, and light. Aql leads to knowledge. The rational facility give you knowledge, and knowledge is nur, is light. It's enlighten you, make you enlighten, make you know where you are in the universe. So that's synchronized with nur is very interesting with the same number. The word raghba, desire, and rahba, fear. Raghba, rahba. These words, rahba, raghba, rahba. Yes, they came in the Quran in one place, praising some prophets that they can kanu yad'una raghaban wa rahaban. Yes, raghbatan wa rahaban. They were supplicating to us. They ask us, raghba, in desire for our bounty or our gift, and rahaba, and fear of our punishment. Raghaban wa rahaban. But in the Quran, raghba is alone, rahaba is alone in many other places, and still they are exact the same number 8 times. And another interesting one is the name Muhammad, with this word Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the Quran is 4 times. That's also an interesting point. It shows you if the Quran would have been written by Muhammad, he would have mentioned himself at least a little bit more than 4 times. While Isa is 25 times, Musa, I don't know how many times. I didn't sit that count, and so on. His character is completely, his personality is completely disappeared. He's not present in the Quran directly. But what counts 4 times like Muhammad? Interesting, Sharia. The Sharia is 4 times like Muhammad, meaning that Muhammad, indicating that Muhammad is the one who has brought this Sharia. So these are interesting things. So there's plenty more than that. Some of them more persuasive, some of them less persuasive, etc. Maybe one point which maybe is not my invention. Someone else has found that out. Which also affirms what we said about that the order in the surah in the Quran or is tawqifi, is the following. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Prophet in various places, like the following, let us say in Surah Ghafir, this is Surah number 40, remember the number, say فاصبر إن وعد الله حق فإما نرينك بعض الذي نعدهم أو نتوفينك فإلينا يرجعون. Be patient, endure, because the promise of Allah is haqq, is true. Either we will show you what we have threatened to show to them, that's their defeat or their annihilation, or we take you, نتوفينك, the word, the exact wording, نتوفينك. In either case, they are coming back to us. It doesn't matter. Either we show you what we are threatening to show to do to them of punishment, or we take you before that. Either case, they will coming back to us. So whatever it is. نتوفينك. The word نتوفينك. The word نتوفينك came in the Quran in 3 places only, and all addressed from Allah subhanahu to Muhammad. Now another place it says, وإما نرينك بعض الذي نعدهم أو نتوفينك فإنما عليك البلاغ وعلينا الحساب. If either we show you what we are promising to them or they were threatening to them, or we take you to us, نتوفينك, your function is balagh, is broadcasting the message, and accounting is on us. Punishment and reward is on us, not on you. You are just a messenger. You are just have to balagh. You have to bring the message, convey. You are a conveyor. You are a conveyor of the message, and we are the one who do the account. And that's Surah Al-Ra'd, number 13. Remember number 13. And then third place is وإما نرينك بعض الذي نعدهم أو نتوفينك فإلينا مرجعهم ثم الله شهيد على ما يفعلون. Either we show you what we are promising them or we take you to us نتوفينك فإلينا مرجعهم. Their coming back is to us and Allah is witness over that what they are doing. Now interestingly, this is the first one I read. This is Surah Ghafir, is number 40. This, if you look at the sentence fasbir, it appears like it's like the command which came first, like iqra, that's endure. That's addressing someone who has been, number 40 is his age of 40. That's when he received the message. You have to endure now. That's 40. I know 40 years old. And there's no mention of being witness over them in the future. No mentioning of that. Second one, there's the Surah number 40. So that's the mentioning the age of the Prophet when he received the message, 40. And the second one in Surah Al-Ra'd, it is Surah number 13. It is appears to be the way of the talk is it appears to be like a Makki time. It's indicating that you will be going through this phase for 13 years. That's the Makki time, 30 years in Mecca. And the last one, which mentioned being Allah's witness over them, what they do after that, seems to be the final phase, which mentioned the number 10, which is the Surah number 10, which mentioned, which implicitly indicate the 10 years of Medina. So this is the life of the 40 years first, then 13 in Mecca, then 10 in Medina. It looks like amazing coincidence. And interestingly, the order of the surah is opposite the order of the revelation and of the phases. And it's most likely that's the order of the revelation. Also, we don't. By the way, you may have seen in various places various claims about the order of revelation. This was revealed to this one, this one. Most of that is not reliable, and you cannot rely on it really. Sometimes you know that this surah is revealed in that time roughly because we know from certain event in the surah the time it has come, and like for example Hajj, it contains verses which are clearly related to the time of immigration from Mecca to Medina and the arrival in Medina. Yeah, so that's the Hajj is even one of the earliest. It's actually between Mecca and Medina. Part of it may be on the way on the Medina, and then in Medina when the permission to fight has come, the first one. So it's very early in Medina. We know that. But what is before, what's after, we don't know. I guess from that order is that really Ghafir is ahead in revelation from Al-Ra'd, and this is ahead from Yunus, most likely. So that's what you read somewhere, that is the surahs came in that order and so on. You cannot really rely on that much. But you can guess from that, and you see the order in the Mus'haf is reversed. The later one, which mentioned the 10 last years of the Prophet ﷺ, is the earlier one in the order of the Mus'haf, it's Yunus. So the order of the Mus'haf is more like order of, maybe, as we said, by the division of the Sahaba in the code Manzila, is most likely more taking care of the size. The big surahs come first and so on in essential order, that we can have manzil like 3 first, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and then a mufassal. Have 7 manazil. It may be that's the way. We don't know. There might be more wisdom and hikmah, but it's not the order of revelation, and all claims that there must have an order of revelation as just nonsensical. And it's very clear. First, we know that's the first revelation whatsoever. It is at the far end of the Quran in the order of the number of surahs. So that has nothing to do really with any order of revelation, but the opposite. Maybe it is almost reversed. It's almost reversed in many places. Not necessary. Sometimes it's not. So that's an interesting aspect. And there are many other interesting aspects of these numerical synchronization. Some of them are sensitive to the writing, the exact writing, and the exact counting, and some are not. But really, to develop this science is a modern science, because for that you need really computerized. First of all, we have to check what is the exact writing, which was hopefully in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. Metaphorically, what is the authentic writing? Secondly, what is the authoritative method of counting words and and letters. Counting words is important because word here in the Quranic context mean what is written as one in one connected. But there may be some problem. For example, the waw and in Arabic, the waw does not connect to what comes after it. Not like the fa. Does it belong to the after it, or is it a standalone word? For example, the Egyptian way of writing of Arabic, which is enshrined in, for example, Microsoft. If you want to add Arabic, for example, add Arabic support to a Microsoft program, Microsoft window, you will find this Egyptian Arabic, Moroccan Arabic, Saudi Arabic, etc. They have various so-called Arabic, various variations. In the Egyptian Arabic, the waw is separate, is regarded as a separate word. Which one is to be said? But that can be easily gleaned from the Quran. If you look at the old Masahif, and we have some pictures of them and so on, you see that the waw is adjoined to the word which comes after that, so it's not a separate word. Although it is philologically, linguistically, it's a separate word, but it is adjoined. What we call word in the Quran is what written in one piece, in one joint stroke without a separation. That word could have various components. Like, for example, it could be composed out of several things. The longest one and the most composed one is فَسَيَكْفِيكَ فَهُمُ اللَّهِ فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُم 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 is one word, written as one word, all connected. But it's composed of fa, then, sa, the scene of the future, in the future, sa, yakfi, the verb yakfi will be enough for you, Allah. Yakfika, ka, yakfika you, will be enough for you. فَيَكْفِيكَهُم, yakfikahum, and then a second acted upon, Allah will be enough for you. Against whom? Against them. All of that is lumped in one word. فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُم. And the actor who does the kifaya is Allah, is a separate word. فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُم, Allah. So فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُم should be counted as one word in the word count, although it's composed of various bits and pieces. So that has to be a decision has to be made, and it must be consistently or through all of the Quran and in all the counts. So the waw is not a standalone word, although it's linguistically and in a matter of philology and meaning is a separate one, but it is written with the word after that. And you see that in the old Masahif, which we have fragments of them here and there everywhere, it is written adjoined to the count. So وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ, there's no space, al-malaika directly. So it's on all the Masahif written like that. So the correct one is that they call, what Microsoft calls the Saudi or Iraqi Arabic. I don't know where they get that invention. Maybe they're trying to split the Arab and Muslim world by this technique, or maybe that's what they have been told by their advisor. I don't know. Anyway, but that's it. For example, that has to be there. So all these decisions has to be made before, and most importantly is we have to say goodbye to the reading of Hafs and the Masahif printed according to the Hafs pronunciation, because the count of ayahs is not correct, the huruf muqatta'a are not consistent, and there are other issues with that. The real ones which have been to refer to is Qalun, Warsh, and Duri Abu Amr, which is widespread in Africa. So in this regard, the African have got it right this time. Actually, Allah made it so that it will be there. And it will be more or less a bit hidden behind the prevalent Hafs reading for some time until its time comes. And its time has come now to really get that. This, for concerning tafsir in the proper sense, is barely any difference. Minimal difference. Essentially no difference. We can easily say, for example, Tabari discuss various readings and explain the meaning of some ayah, and generally there's no issue whatsoever of tafsir level. So in the tafsir level we don't need that, and they did not need it in the past, except rarely in one place or two scattered here and there. But in a matter of counting of the ayahs and the surahs and the letters and so on, and the numerical miracles of the Quran, I think this has to be done now cleanly and in a consistent way. And I'm doing a bit of that, but there's this scholar in America is doing some work, and he's contacted with me. unfortunately, I was not in contact very frequent with him because we were busy with other things. But inshallah, I will try to give that matter a little bit more attention and go from there, because I think there are considerable breakthroughs. And so we have this Quran in our hand, definitely physically in our hand. The writing is physically in front of us. The small variations and issues can be settled in a consistent and internally consistent and proper way, based on argument and evidences internally and externally, not based on just desire and an attempt to fix something. And then based on that, once it is defined properly and fixed, then it can be expanded to other areas of endeavor. And for example, the scholar in America has invented a way of ordering the letters of the letters of the alphabet in a certain way and giving them numerical values, not the classical Abjad Hawaz, the Jewish one, Abijad, etc. Not that one, another one. The guy, he was guided by certain consideration about the language of Adam and so on, but also internal consistency of the Quran, and made a certain order and certain numerical. That has to be further polished and scrutinized. That he appeals to the language of Adam being Arabic or not Arabic, I don't think this is. That's not necessary for this definition of this order, and the numbering allocated to that is not necessary. And based on this numbering, certain interesting things has been found in the Quran. He has found already, but I think that has to be reviewed again and scrutinized further and checked with these fundamental principle that it becomes unattackable. Because I think he is most likely going out again from the reading of Hafs and Asim, and there may be issues of counting the letters, and it's very important to have these issues cleaned and out of the way before we claim any miraculous coincidences, and as I said, in a consistent and undisputable way. Otherwise, it's not correct and not persuasive. Let me give an example of counting. Like, for example, we count the letter as written in the authoritative writing of the Uthmani Mus'haf, like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is 90 letters. There's no issue about that. Like, for example, let us see, there are certain issues, like we discussed casually at Surah Qaf, that there are al-Haq, for example. We have to count the Qaf as 2 to get the number 19. It looks like fixing by hand, playing by hand, but we have to do it in a consistent principle. The consistent principle is that Haq is originally Haqaqa, but this has to apply for Hatta. Hatta has to be then, that has to be counted 2, because Hatata, the original of it. And the same applies for Inna wa Anna, and Thumma wa Thamma, etc. So we have to sit on that. I will hope, inshallah, I will communicate with him so we can develop that into a consistent, internally consistent, non-contradictory and fixed. Then based on that, based on having really the text of the what is needed is really to have the text of the Mus'haf free from all tashkilat, with the dots. That's not the dots of the letters, clear. Ha and Kha has to be distinguished. That's no question about that. And according to the correct reading, which is the reading, as I said, the preferred reading, that's the reading of Qalun, etc., where some dots may be different, like Tatabbatu wa Tabayyanu. That could be making difference in the letters. We have to make a decision there also. That we have to balance that out. So based on that, if that's done, then the machinery of the calculation can be let loose, and then we may find amazing coincidences and other things which nobody ever expected before. So I think that's a project by itself, although it has little direct influence of the tafsir, except in the meaning that to prove and establish beyond any possible doubt with absolute certitude that the text we are discussing and trying to analyze the meaning of it is a divine text. It's worthy of the effort and worthy of sitting on it. It is not just we're assuming, we are proving. We have proven it to be of divine origin. I think for today, I think that's enough for today. And then maybe we start with tafsir proper next week with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. We'll go from there. I think that's enough for these basic issues about the writing and the structure of the Quran and so on. It's basic. That's all basic. This is all by itself is a complete science by itself and a complete project by itself. Okay, so we stop here, inshallah. See if there's any questions, and then we go from there.
Just the one question came through, Sheikh. It
Yeah.
was, what was the reason of removing Bismillah from Surah Tawbah and the evidence for it?
We don't know. It is not in Surah Tawbah. It's not written anywhere in the Masahif. The people were speculating. I mentioned the joke of the people in Najd teasing the kids. Why is the Bismillah ar-Rahman missing in the Surah Tawbah? And the Namal, the ant, went at night and ate it away. Okay, that's obviously that's not. No. Some people say because it has come with the sword, with the threat to the mushrikeen. It's not good to Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's not nice to start with the mercy. That's what people were speculating. That's the way it was dictated by the Prophet ﷺ, and that's the way he gave it to Ali ibn Abi Talib when he went joining Abu Bakr in the 9th year for the Hajj. Abu Bakr was the commander of the Hajj in behalf of the Prophet ﷺ, which is, by the way, a very strong nomination. Not istikhlaf, some people claim. I don't want to go into political philosophy, but it's not istikhlaf. But the one who leads the Hajj is usually the Imam, the head of state. The Prophet ﷺ, when he made the Hajj next year, he was the leader of the Hajj. So Abu Bakr was in behalf of the Prophet, which is showed like a nomination, is a deputy of the Prophet ﷺ in that. And Ali was the broadcaster of the message. And he sent it him with Bara'ah, the beginning of Bara'ah, without Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's what has happened. We don't know. People may speculate what's it. The same people are speculating about these huruf muqatta'a, what they mean. Alif lam mim sad, alif lam ra. We know the qaf may be relating to the qaf in that surah and the number of 19. Maybe the others are having some numerical issues and maybe some meaning issues. We have, for example, Ibn Abbas speculating that Taha ma anzalna. Taha is, we know that many Egyptians, especially in Egypt, they call, many men are called Taha because they believe Taha is the name of the Prophet, alayhi salam. But Ibn Abbas claims that Taha, meaning Ya Rajul, O man, because Taha is in Syriac seem to be meaning man or something like that. There's so many speculations about these things, and the Quran has kept few secrets to be detected in the future, and there are few, maybe 3-4 places which are so difficult and dark. Until now, it's very difficult to get grip with the meaning of them. But if we know that's from Allah with certitude, we know that something is coded there, maybe for its appropriate time to be detected and exposed in its appropriate time. But we'll come to some of these in the future, inshallah. But why the basmala is omitted there? Obviously, we have a narration that narration claim, some people claim it's with Hasan Isnad, which shows that it's Isnad. If it is that Hasan, technically, there must be some disease there, definitely. Because it says, someone asked Ali Uthman, how come that you have written Bara'ah with the Basmala and so on. And then the story claims that Uthman said, because the Prophet died without telling us what is it. Surah Bara'ah, it was one of the last, which is a lie. It's not true. It's not the last. The last is a Nur. One of the last is the Nur and others. And some ayahs like in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum Dinakum, so this is all nonsense. Bara'ah. He do not explain to us, and the story looks like Surah Al-Anfal. Look at the absurdity, Surah Al-Anfal, and then I decided to write it behind Al-Anfal without a separation of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is just a fabricated hadith. It can't be, because we have another narration from Ali Uthman say, why didn't you put Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in your Mus'haf? He say, that's the way we have received from the Prophet. We are not going to change anything in it. That's the correct answer. That's what it's not sahih. So that's what it's not Hassan. I have to scrutinize that it's not one day and show who is the liar, or maybe there's some tadlis. A man has been dropped who is a liar, or trying to invent something from his imagination and try to explain something which is explanation is simple. That's the way the Prophet gave it to us, and that's it. And you could explain that sentence. It has dropped there specifically because it is the phrase Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wanted it to be 9 times 6 in the Quran, 114 times. But there's one gone already in Mecca, in Surah Al-Naml, because the Naml is Makki. إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So one of Bismillah ar-Rahim has to be missing. So that phrase is 114 times in the Quran exactly. That's also a good answer. That's a better answer than this nonsense of that the story is similar to story of Anfal. Story of Anfal has nothing to do with the story. Yeah, Anfal is the relating to war issues and so on, but this is about Badr, and this is about mostly about the Munafiqeen, the declaration of the war, about the remainder of the Mushrikeen. What has this to do with Anfal? It's related to war and so on, but also An-Nisa has a good section about war and peace, even more stronger than that. So this narration is definitely fabricated, even if the isnad look at face value at face side. Hasan, most likely there's some an there, ana, and there's most likely some mudallis have dropped a liar in between, or one of the guys there is a liar. Either one of the in the chain, apparent in the chain is liar, or one of these an from a man in between has been dropped, which is called tadlis, and that man is untrustworthy. That's the only explanation. If all the others are reliable and trustworthy, so that's what is definitely not true. This even if the isnad is hasan, not every isnad hasan, or even isnad which looks at the first sahih ends with a sahih hadith. Although it should be normally, but it's not every. There are cases where the isnad looks impeccable, but the end hadith is fabricated, it's not true. So that's we don't know, and we can't speculate. I would say I am more inclined to say that it's Allah wanted us to have Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, again affirmation, the number 19, exactly like the number of the surahs. That's 9 times 6, 9 times 2, 19 times 2 times 3. That's 9 times, which is 114. But one was already revealed in Mecca, and then one has to be missing from the front of the 19 system. The system of the number 19 is not spoiled, and the only way with that is to take it away from the beginning of one surah. And the most appropriate surah to be taken away is Surah At-Tawbah. Is opening with the declaration of war. It doesn't have the taste to be started with the Rahmah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That's the best maybe what we can be speculating, but we don't know what Allah intended. We can only speculate. Good. So that's the best what we can claim at this level.
Okay, there's one more question, Sheikh.
Yeah.
Is talfiq of the different qira'at permitted when reciting Quran in the prayer?
Is talfiq
of the different qira'at? I don't know that word.
Yeah, talfiq meaning reading a little bit of this, a little bit of this, according to this one. Yeah, it's permissible. You have the permission. We discussed that issue of these ahruf al-sab'a, which I am inclined really to discount all these hadith which claim that you can read by meaning and so on, and explain the story where the hadith of the reading of various ahruf, that there was a confrontation between Umar and Hisham bin Hakim bin Hizam. Hisham bin Hakim bin Hizam is Qurashi, so it can't be really that he substituted words. It may be something similar to that what Ibn Umar was disgusted to hear Mas'ud say at-ta'in instead of hat-ta'in. Say this is not, Quran did not come with the language of Hudayr, read like Quraysh. It is not like changing the letters in that he felt it's disgusting. I feel also disgusting. Turning an ha into ayn, it's just intolerable. But most likely that's permitted. That was the permission. So that was permission. There's no indication in this permission that you should stick to one reader or one narrator or one style. You can combine as you wish, as convenient. But it's a permission for your own convenience. To take consideration of your linguistic handicaps. Like, for example, if you are from Yemen or Egypt, the Egyptian Yemeni have difficulty pronouncing the jim. They will not say jibal, except they do it deliberately and intentionally. They say gibal, and so on. So it's okay. Read gibal is no problem. I think until now it's permissible. I don't think, although no one of the famous reader, neither the 7 nor the 10 nor the 14, read with this gaf, Egyptian gaf or Yemeni gaf. But I think this is included in the ahruf. I think this when the permission is there. The Prophet died and the permission is there. Uthman made the ijtihad that he wanted to reduce that permission as much as possible to the Qurayshi dialect, to reduce the conflicts and so on. But he was also resisted, and people criticizing him for that. Although I think what he did is better, because the reason for this permission has become a little bit easy, and the people have mixed together. The moment people mix, for example, if an Egyptian come to Arabia and mix with the people, also then slowly he will be able to do the jim and so on. So, but in principle, there's no problem in do the pronunciation which you are able to pronounce. That's permitted. And they have actually one time we were in the masjid with my father, rahmatullah alayh, and there was a Bedouin reading something, and he was reading it in an odd way. And we tried, myself and my father, to correct him. He was unable to pronounce it. So my father said, leave him this one of the ahraf. Set him in his harf. So it can happen. Nothing else. Some people are tongue and they are grown in a remote area, and it's very difficult for them to change, to twist their tongue in the way you would like to be in the more perfect way. That's generally. So who said that you have to stick to one reader? You can change. You can. Although sometimes it's done like for show off. It's not nice. Like for example, some who have memorized the Quran, when they read the same ayah twice, or read an ayah in one qira'ah and another qira'ah to show off that I'm master of qira'at. I don't think this is nice. If it's show off, then it's not good. It will mess up your thawab. Unless you want to educate the people. Sometimes it's good. For example, if you are in Morocco, that tell the people there is another variation of reading. Otherwise the people will be shocked. For example, Surah Al-Tariq, كل نفس لما عليها حافظ. So the Hafs reading, the far west reading is لما عليها حافظ. لما, not لما. Some people get shocked with what's going on. Even in Fatiha, مالك يوم الدين and ملك يوم الدين. People maybe get annoyed if you say Malik Yawmiddin. All this, this is the preferred qira'ah, not Malik Yawmiddin, not the Hafs one, the Qalun, Warsh, and Duri one, and most other reader. All of them read Malik, exactly like the writing. So it should be the preferred one. But it's okay. Talfiq is no problem, unless it's show off. Show off will reduce your thawab. But sometimes it's for educational. So Talfiq is okay. There's no injunction, there's no Sharia injunction that it's you should stick to only one reading or one variation. No, it should be taken at ease, as it comes at ease, unless you are having an educational purpose, or if someone have bad intention of showing off that I'm a master of qira'at. That's bad. That's bad for him, but it doesn't make it invalid or make salah invalid or anything like that. But will reduce his thawab, because we should not be showing off this way. So Talfiq is okay, no problem. I don't see any problem. There's no Sharia injunction really, no solid claim that you have to stick to one qira'ah in a salah or in a reading session. Actually, most Quran reader reciter in weddings and so on, when they come, they read maybe 3-4 ayahs, and they go back to the ayahs in another reading, a third reading, fourth reading, and so on. And the people in Egypt especially like that. There's the tradition of indulging in that, maybe a little bit excessively, but still there's no injunction against that. And it be quite educational. So it's not bad. Good.
Okay, Jazakallah Sheikh. We should wrap it up today then. We'll aim for the same next week, inshallah.
بإذن تعالى. So start التفسير proper, inshallah. These preliminaries has finished, inshallah.
Jazakallah Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.